with Aaron Cow.
I throw balls far. You want good words? Data language.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Cow with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
Good Thursday morning out there, Western Oklahoma. Welcome to the Skinny on Sports right here on 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Glad to have you along for the next hour. You might notice a little pep in my speech. It's because it's Major Golf Week. And as is the case with a lot of these tournaments, the early leaderboard is filled with a bunch of dudes you've never heard of.
Yeah.
But hide and watch because that'll change.
Giving us some early highlights, though.
Yeah, Scott Stallings apparently made a 2 on number 10.
The leader, at least who he was when I saw.
Higa.
He
Just made another birdie.
Wow. That
3 under
putt,
through
that
4.
putt just kind of set right there on the lip and then went in. I mean, you like that. That's what you want from a major. Some good golf from these no-name guys. Who knows?
Higa.
Who knows? Who might stay around?
Oh, look here. Oh, never mind. That was for par. I was going to say the U.S. Ryder Cup captain just made a birdie on number 1, but nope, that was a par putt, a lengthy par putt. Just underway. Kei Higa is leading. Japanese guy. 3 under through 4.
Now, did I understand this right? There's a delay because of frost.
There was a frost delay.
Frost delay in May 18th.
Yeah, I was reading some comments from Justin Thomas yesterday, and he was talking about how they had snow there like 3 weeks ago. But here's the deal: in the PGA of America's defense, when they set this site, the PGA was in August.
That's true.
When the site was set, it was before the calendar got revamped.
That's true.
So, but it looks nice. I mean, it didn't take long. Guys are out there in short sleeves. So I think here's what I think happened. I talked a bunch yesterday about how the draw would matter. I think because of the frost, those guys didn't have to play when it was so cold, and now it's just going to be normal. Because I mean, like I said, Colin Morikawa is right here. He doesn't have a jacket on even, and this is only the 5th or 6th, 7th group off. So that theory is, I think, null and void with the frost delay that allowed the temperatures to warm up, and now everybody's kind of on the same footing, I think, between the morning and the afternoon guys. So not much going on because of that delay. There's just guys through like 3 or 4 holes is the most that anybody's played so far. So it'll really get going by the time we get off the air. Also in golf, talk about it at the end of the show. We'll do the PGA Championship also. Regional golf in men's Division 1. One team keeps rolling, and another one shockingly is done. We'll tell you what that is. I came across this list of CBS Sports ranked the Power 5 college football coaches. And so I want to get into that today. Without looking, I want you to do your top 5 without looking at what theirs is. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha. I'm doing it right now.
Okay. All right. So get everybody, what's your top 5? If I said, all right, who are the top 5 college football coaches, who you got? And then we'll kind of compare that to what the list is, who's too high on that list in my mind, who's too low. And then it seems like there's some that are kind of falling, and there's some that are rising or going to have the ability to rise. So we can talk about that. It was maybe a week or 2 ago when I asked the question, what was the most like one of a kind thing that's ever happened in sports?
Right. Oh, yeah. I think I know where you're going.
It happened.
I know where you're going.
It happened to a Diamondback. Not quite the same circumstance, but damn close enough to go, huh?
What?
Yeah. And then we'll hit the NBA playoffs right here at the top as well with Miami.
Hey,
Miami.
Jimmy Butler, man.
Crazy. and then game 2 of the West. I've got a question. We were praising the guy yesterday about in game 1 of the Lakers Nuggets.
So there's a balloon just flying around in Blake's office.
Did you not know?
It's freaking me out.
Guess what? It went all the way down the hall over the weekend. It was left over from Gabe's office.
Okay, there is a legend about this building that there's a little
haunted
it
took
boy
all Monday for it to get there. Or Sunday. I mean, I was up here Sunday. It took about all Sunday for it. It started at like the break room.
Yeah.
When I got here, and I was here for a while, and by the time I left, it was past like the hall, coming in from the back door, right?
Yeah.
It was past there, and then when I got here Monday, it was like right at the door. And now here it is flying around in Blake's office. Anyhow, we'll talk some NBA playoffs as well. 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. 225-9698. Give us a call, shoot us a text, talk about any of those things, whatever else might be on your mind. Feel free to chime in at 225-9698 if you're going to be outside the listening area. A couple ways to stay in touch with the show. Log on to KADSAM.com. Download the app. The app's got it all. Radio, Penny News. Go pick up a free copy of this week's Penny News at your favorite local newsstand. During the high school sports season, Big Elk and Paragon TV in there as well. And then, of course, Skinny on Sports Podcast. You can find that sucker wherever you go get podcasts. It's there each and everywhere. How are you today, Jared?
I'm good.
No power. Power.
It's back. Of course, it's like 5 minutes after I arrive here, the power comes back on my house. No, I woke up. Power was on. Everything was good. Sure, it's raining, thundering, whatever. It's like slow motion in a movie. I'm going down to push the button to start my coffee. Then, power
Darkness.
gone. So I kind of stand there like, all right, it'll come back. It did not. So had to get ready in the dark. Had some lamps, emergency lamps or whatever.
Now,
I really need a generator. Every time this happens, I need a generator. But it only happens like maybe twice a year. We didn't have a bad winter where we didn't lose power. So, but you could hear all the generators, all the Generac generators going off.
Just for documentary purposes, your AccuWeather app never went severe, did it?
No.
Mine neither. I want to document that in the podcast. If their questions abound overnight.
I kept looking.
Well, I made a point to watch the news at 6 because you can kind of see some clouds building, but it's still way back into the panhandle of Texas. But
you meant like last night?
Yeah, like at 6 o'clock last night.
Yeah, you could see that.
You could already see it.
We were outside doing some practicing, and coaches were asking me, "Where's that at?"
And it was like an Amarillo.
I'm like, "Yeah, man, that's way out there. Don't worry about it."
And so I made sure and watched, and my man David Payne was like, "Oh, 0 chance of severe weather tonight, overnight. It's just going to be maybe some very small hail, a little bit of lightning, and rain."
Yeah.
Then I watched at 10 as the storm started moving closer, and he said, "Well, you never know. There might be an uptick of a severe here and there." And I thought, "Are you kidding me?
Dang it, David!
I'm going to get up at 2:30.
You're a David Payne in my butt."
Yeah.
I could have went the other way. Go ahead.
And so anyway, I thought, oh, really? It's going to just enough for me to drive here, and then it's going to go away.
Go away. That's how it works for me too when I come from Canute.
And so anyway, it never happened officially.
But we got the rain, so
we did get the rain.
Can't complain
Bunch
about
of rain.
that. Hopefully, it holds off tonight. I want to play some softball. But
don't think it's going to happen. I think tonight is a little bit different.
It's around. Okay, first game's 5:30. What is it then?
There's going to be chances, and it's going to be storms.
Right, but
he said very low chance of tornadoes, but big hail, golf ball or bigger hail.
Hail.
The hail. Yeah.
Well,
we'll
I'm
see what the
crossing my
National Weather
fingers.
Service says.
Crossing my fingers. Never thought that rain would be the reason why we're not playing a lot of softball games. Happened last Saturday. Could happen tonight. Could happen tomorrow.
So 4 p.m. to 10.
I'm supposed to golf tomorrow. By the way, I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, I know. So 4 p.m. to 10. Chance of severe storms today. We are in the slight yellow box. And then there's a green marginal, which is lower around us. So there's a chance. I know southwestern and western Oklahoma is kind of the spot today, and down into the eastern Texas panhandle as well.
Well,
I'm going to say there's a pretty decent chance.
Crossing my fingers.
Softball doesn't happen.
I'm crossing my fingers that the rain holds off.
I don't think the rain is what you're going to have to worry about.
Lightning and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that's what
that'll
I'm
do
afraid
it. Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of for you. Okay, so last night, I think both of us really almost dismissed Miami. I know I did.
Oh, I absolutely
And
did.
that doesn't mean that Boston can't win 4 in a row and they win in 5 games like we kind of thought. But there's 2 things, and we did preface that by saying unless Jimmy Butler goes nuts, which Jimmy Butler went nuts on both ends of the floor. He was just incredible. And Jason Tatum, some late key turnovers. Thought Boston – I really kind of thought Boston came out, did what they had planned on doing in the first half. They're up 9. Seems like they're rolling. And maybe just kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit, thinking, okay, game 1, we're winning. And Eric Spoelstra. Is Eric Spoelstra the most underrated being in the NBA?
Yeah, because of what he started with. I almost talked about this yesterday. What he started with LeBron, D-Wade, Bosh. And I thought, man, this guy was just given a Ferrari. He just turned 16, and here's the keys to your Ferrari, son. Pat Riley said that to him. But he's a really good coach.
Well, in early...
And he's the longest tenured coach right now?
Oh, he has to be.
Yeah.
He absolutely has to be. Well, except for Pop.
Well, yeah.
He almost doesn't count.
Well, I meant in their abled mind.
But he, even in those early times, which you're talking about, with the Heatles, there was, LeBron, I think, had to. There was something about him that LeBron didn't just dismiss him away. Because at first, it looked like it was going to happen. This guy
didn't win that first year.
Yeah, and this guy is some kind of videographer. And what does he know? And of course, Pat Riley's there, and there was always the thought of, well, this young babyface guy, that's enough. Get Pat in there and win these titles. But there was something there because as we've seen with LeBron, he'll discard you as soon as he knows he's done with you. And there were some rumblings there early on in those first couple of years, but he didn't. And now you're looking up, the adjustments that he makes and that he made last night at halftime, going into the second half and turn the game around. And of course, making shots helps, but I thought it really started defensively, where they started getting stops. They're creating turnovers, creating open floor opportunities that they took advantage of. Next thing you know, they score 46, which is the most they've ever scored in a quarter in the playoffs, the second most the Celtics storied franchise has ever given up in a quarter in a playoff game. And Miami turns it completely around and wins. But that last sentence there, with the success that Miami, in a short time that they've been in existence from the early 90s to now, they've been a really successful franchise.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people forget they won a title before LeBron.
And then of course you got Boston, who is right behind the Lakers or ahead of wherever you want to put them all time. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you're like us and thought the Celtics were going to win this series pretty easily, I don't think you need to give up on that, because it took historic quarter in order for the Celtics to lose that game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so, it was an incredible performance, and Jimmy Butler is the toughest dude there is. Spoelstra might be the best coach in the league. And yet it took that historic collapse in the third quarter for Miami to win that game by 7. So I'm certainly not selling my Celtics stock when it comes to winning this series over the Miami Heat.
Could be a flash in the pan. But you're right. It took a historic quarter just to win by 7. So not burying Boston at all is what we're saying. And I agree with you. But kudos to Miami, though. I think what what you said we took for granted. We didn't think about, Spoelstra, he knows how to coach. He knows how to coach at a high level. Jimmy Butler, we mentioned Jimmy Butler yesterday, and he was what he was. I just hope is it Jason Tatum versus Jimmy Butler every game? You know what I mean? Who's going to have the better night?
Well, it shouldn't be, because
to success.
Boston's got Jaylen Brown, Now, the one thing,
Smart could be good sometimes.
Yeah, and here's the one. As well as Al Horford did, and he did an amazing job on Embiid at times in that series against the Sixers. It feels like Bam Adebayo is a different challenge, and, man, it just didn't seem as if Horford could hang. Adebayo was awesome last night, and maybe that's just a little bit, maybe this at the end of the day it shows you that, yeah, Embiid's knee wasn't very good because Horford was able to stick with him. But him and Adebayo are different players. Embiid's more the traditional throw it to me, I'll back you down, and Horford was strong enough to handle that. But now Adebayo's more of a mover, cutter, pick and pop type player, and that makes Horford's age maybe show a little bit.
That's where I was going. That's exactly where I was going. It's people forget how long he's been in the league, and he's good player. But you're right, when you make him be versatile like that, that could wear him down in a hurry.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be that's the one maybe overlooked by me advantage that Miami has. But then you also got Robert Williams. It just may neutralize Al Horford in this series more than it did against the Sixers. Now, another coach that we gave a bunch of credit to yesterday, even in a losing effort, was Darvin Ham. And the way that Darvin Ham was able to make an adjustment and slow down Jokic just a little bit by moving Hachimura onto him. Here's a question, though. Down 18 at half, down 14 going in the fourth quarter. Did Darvin Ham, while doing something really good at the time, mess up? Did he make a mistake by tipping his hand in a game they probably weren't going to win? And now gives Mike Malone and the Nuggets a chance to adjust to the adjustment that happened.
Blueprint, yeah.
Exactly. Instead of springing this on them tonight in Game 2, and maybe that being enough to win that and steal that game, now that they've seen it, now can Mike Malone adjust before the tip-off even happens?
Yeah, I don't know. You can't play the, kind of like baseball. You can't play the what-if game. You can't say, well, I tipped my hand too early. I'll take this loss and then reveal.
But sometimes that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, sometimes it is. But you're right. He did it and still came out with a loss. So you showed Miami. It's a good question. I don't know. It gives something. If anything, it gives Denver something else to prepare for.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's always that. But I'm not going to fault him for it because he did everything he could to try to put his team in the best position to win. And I can't fault the guy for that, a coach for that.
I think a lot more concern for the Lakers is age of Anthony Davis and LeBron James and being able to replicate what they did in game, even though it wasn't a loss, replicate what they did in that Game 1 loss as they turn around with just one day rest in that altitude that is so famous for being really tough to combat physically up there in the Mile High City.
You think they're walking around with air tanks like old people at Walmart?
Like it looks like the casino.
Just to try to stay as, what do you call that? Keep enough oxygen in their body.
Oxygenate your blood.
Thank you.
Yes, it doesn't happen as fast in the higher elevation.
You think they're doing that?
Yeah, they're doing whatever they can.
Green tanks pulling around.
Maybe not the little green tanks, but they're doing whatever they possibly can.
I'm about to get a text. There's Jared again ripping on old people.
Yeah. Jared doesn't like old people.
Oh, boy.
Now, I think that's the whole key to the series is how many games, if it goes 7, let's say it goes 7, how many can LeBron and Anthony Davis be at their tip-top physically, mentally, and being able to play in that moment?
It's a great question.
To be able to combat what the younger Denver Nuggets can do.
It's a great question. We'll have to see.
If they can do it 7 times out of 7, I think we're going to have one heck of a series.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I just don't think they can. And so now that they lost one game, it's like it's okay to lose the games where they don't play great. It's a pretty tough blow when you lose a game that they both did.
Wild theory here. If this series was in the bubble, is that advantage Lakers?
Maybe so. I mean, think
or
that's a
vice
thing.
versa back in 2020 if it was normal and it was in the Rocky Mountains.
It's an advantage that nobody else has. For them and maybe Salt Lake City and Utah. There's just not a lot of those places.
There's not a lot of talk about that in Utah. You don't hear about
not nearly as much as Denver.
You don't hear that. You just hear a bunch of racism in Utah.
Well,
you
that's
don't
true.
hear about the thin air.
Okay, so did you see? A couple weeks back we talked about these one-of-a-kind occurrences in sports, and Randy Johnson hitting that bird with the baseball was on a lot of people's mind, and how oh my god! I mean, now, so did you see what happened here?
Yeah, I saw it.
So Zach Gallen of the Arizona Diamondbacks just happened to be the same team that Randy Johnson was playing for at the time. Was playing catch, and apparently he was just he threw a curveball. And what does it do? It hits a bird and kills it. Now he's playing catch out in the out. It's not like he was throwing a pitch to a batter and it exploded a bird.
Right.
But what are the odds that the same team, a pitcher on the same team, would hit a bird with a baseball?
That's like lightning striking twice in a way. The odds are astronomical.
So here's what I say. I win. Because at that day, kind of the two leaders in the clubhouse was hitting a bird with a baseball when you're throwing it or chipping it on top of the guy's coin. Yeah, I hadn't seen anybody chip it on somebody's coin again.
I don't know. We got another 3.5 days of this PGA Championship. Who knows what could happen?
It's crazy. And not only that it happened.
I think it's a glitch in the Matrix. I think that's what's going on here.
But how about the fact that it was a Diamondbacks pitcher?
I know, that's what I'm saying. The glitch in the Matrix.
Man. Just craziness. The odds are astronomical that would happen once, much less twice.
It's insane.
So congratulations, Zach Gallen.
There's about to be a revolt. There's about to be
PETA.
a bunch of birds. No, a bunch of birds are going to get together and go, okay, we're going to attack on the dawn. When they're mad at Arizona.
It'll have to be a road game because they're enclosed.
It's gonna be like the movie The Birds.
Next time they go to Wrigley, you're gonna have a bunch of birds just carry the pitcher off of this mound and take him outside the ivy and just dump him on the street or something. Take that.
Oh boy,
crazy.
Or San Francisco, they're gonna drop him in
McCovey Cove. Oh man! Did you happen to see who the Bucks interviewed for their head coaching position?
No.
A former assistant. That's not how you think of him, though. Sam got it.
He
guessed who the former Bucks assistant who they hired or who they didn't hire. Sorry,
who they're talking to,
who they interviewed. Do you remember this? You know him a different way. You know him as the former head coach at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Current head coach at the Houston Cougars, Mr. Kelvin Sampson.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's always been, when he spent that time in the NBA, there was always that speculation of when's he going to get a shot as a head coach.
Yeah, or would he be one of those college guys that could translate? And then
he seemed to like being that assistant or an analyst or whatever he was. He seemed to really like it. He kind of laid low and still made money and still was in the game that he loved. Houston was a perfect situation for him. Small school, but with history, and he's elevated them back to prominence. And I'd be interested to see how that worked.
Yeah.
Milwaukee, I'd be rooting for him.
Yeah,
sure, a lot of Oklahomans would. He's a guy that after the Indiana thing wore off, you tend to like the guy. You still like the guy.
Yeah, so they've now interviewed Kelvin Sampson and Scott Brooks.
You know, my first answer was going to be Brooks.
Yeah, they already interviewed him. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. You'd think, Kelvin's getting up there in age, and you really kind of felt like Houston was his last stop, right? Oh, I would be shocked if Kelvin leaves if it's not Kellen as the next coach there at Houston.
Yeah,
that would be shocking.
Yeah, there's the Kellen Sampson thing. I mean, there's rumblings of him coming back to OU if that was ever a thing. But if the timing's not right, he might be locked into Houston before that happens.
Yeah, and then obviously Mississippi State would be a place that you might look for him if an opening ever happens because of Zach Selman taking that AD job and the relationship that those guys have had through the years from Oklahoma. So interesting. That just popped up today that the Bucs interviewed him. All right, we've got college football coaches. If I said, all right, Jared, rank your top 5 college football coaches, how would you rank them?
When you said that, I quickly wrote down the top 5 in my eyes, my head. I still stick with Nick Saban because he's the most winningest coach still active right now and one of the greatest of all times. It's just hard to knock him down from that number 1 spot, even though he hasn't won one in a couple of years. Speaking of which, Kirby Smart, I put him at number 2. Ryan Day at number 3, Dabo at 4. I kind of swapped. If you asked me this a year ago, I would have swapped those. But I think Ryan Day's stock is going up with Ohio State, and Dabo's kind of cooled off with Clemson. I know they won the ACC last year. It was a bounce-back season for them, but it still felt underwhelming for Clemson and Dabo Swinney standards. And number 5, people are going to hate me, but I'll go with Lincoln Riley. I mean, you see the immediate impact he has at a program. He kept it going at OU. In his first year at USC. It's fun to watch him lose, but he didn't lose only but twice. Two times? Three times at USC. And, if he could figure out the defense, he can climb up this list too and, maybe win a title or two. But that's what I had. I mean, that's as current coaches what we got. So what about you?
Same top 4, different order. I still had Saban 1, although here's a question. How much credit should Kirby Smart get for what Alabama did? And the reason I ask that is it sure seems like he has been able to make Georgia Alabama since leaving, especially from a recruiting standpoint. And if anything that has knocked Alabama down a tick, they're just not quite as dominant recruiting as they were. How much of that was Kirby Smart? As an assistant at Alabama. You know what I'm saying?
I see where you're coming from,
Saban's the greatest there ever has been. And so it's hard not to put him first. But, I mean, if what happens the last 2 years happens again, when we talk about this a year from now, Kirby Smart has to be considered the best coach in America right now. It doesn't mean he's the best all time like Saban is. But he is right there because he has built that Georgia thing into Alabama. I mean, it's almost like the best compliment that you could give Saban is that the team that just won back-to-back titles reminds you of what he's got.
Yeah.
Or has had.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I kept Dabo 3 just because Ryan Day hasn't got it done.
Right.
I have Ryan Day 4. And then I moved, and I think this is a guy that took way too much crap for being pretty damn good. And now the last 2 years, he has gotten over the hump into at least the playoff. I've got Harbaugh 5. I think Jim Harbaugh is a fantastic coach. Always was. He just couldn't beat Ohio State. Now in the last 2 years, he's been able to do it, and I think this year is the year that if it's not going to be Georgia or Alabama, my money would be leaning toward Michigan because Michigan has probably their most talented team back. Second year of J.J. McCarthy under center. This may be the year he either vaults up a couple of notches or he cements himself toward the bottom of the top 10.
I could easily switch out Harbaugh for Riley and Harbaugh.
I had Riley 8. I went ahead and went out to I thought, where would I put Riley? I put him 8th behind Kyle Whittingham. I've got Whittingham 6th at Utah. And I've got Brian Kelly 7th. I think Brian Kelly's another guy that we're going to go, he's pretty good.
Yeah,
with the team he's got at LSU.
He kind of reminded us of that after he got settled in there at LSU.
So the list here that was put together, Tom Fornelli wrote the article, but it was a few of the writers that kind of put in their, they compiled their list, right? So they had Saban, Smart, Swinney, Riley, Harbaugh, top 5. Kelly, Whittingham, Ryan Day at 8, Luke Fickell at 9, James Franklin at 10. And then you start finding some Big 12 coaches. And that leads me to who's too high. On their list, to me, Sonny Dykes is incredibly too high at number 11.
Just based off of 1 year?
I get it. They had a great year last year, and he did some things at SMU. But I'm going to need to see that wasn't just the perfect storm and just a flash-in-the-pan season for TCU before I can consider Sonny Dykes the 11th best coach in the country.
Completely agree. You got to read. I've lost internet.
Okay. All right. So you have So is it Dykes?
Probably attempted on my phone.
So I had Riley as a too high guy because I have him at 8 and he's number 4 on this list, and then another guy I have too high, and I think he gets credit for what he used to do more than what he's doing now, and that's Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly at number 13. I mean, in this list, he moved up 15 spots from last year. Why? Because he went 9-4 instead of 8-4? Chip Kelly just seems like the idea of Chip Kelly at this point in his career is better than the results that Chip Kelly gets out at UCLA.
I'll give kudos to UCLA as having enough patience to keep him around.
Yeah, he's probably better than they can get, but
That's
the 13th best coach in the country, no thanks.
Yeah, I agree with that. So you're asking who's too high
Who's too high?
on their list? Well, why is Luke Fickell at 9?
Because of what he did at Cincinnati.
What he did at Cincinnati? I mean, I could probably switch 9 and 10. James Franklin.
What has he done?
James Franklin? Yeah. But Luke Fickell, I mean, hasn't coached it down.
He went to the Rose Bowl, I guess, last year, but
yeah. I'm still looking. But I agree with everything you said about those coaches.
All right, who's too low?
Well, I saw it pop up on our text line before the internet went off. Maybe Kleiman around 12?
I've got Kleiman I think Kleiman would be number 9 on my list.
Yeah, he can go up for me. Yeah, absolutely.
He's 12 here. I think he is fantastic. And this is a year. You know what this year reminds me of for them? 2 years ago for Iowa State. They were the trendy pick. They had just come off playing for the Big 12 title against OU. And the people were paying attention. Hell, they were, number 7 preseason? I think Kansas State's maybe not that much love, but Kansas State's going to get love going into the year, and that's going to be a different position for them. Now, Kleiman's been there himself as the coach before he got to K-State, back in his former spot, North Dakota. So he knows how to manage those high expectations on that level. Can you do it on the Big 12 level? Because to me, we thought this was OSU. Maybe it's Kansas State with Kleiman and what he's building there as who's going to be the perennial lead dog in the new Big 12.
And I mentioned that too, based on what you just said, kind of agreeing. I am agreeing with you. They have always been that nice team. That always been that, hey, look out for this Kansas State team. They'll get some wins, and they do. And then they win the Big 12 title last year. Now they got that target.
That's right.
Now no one's going to overlook them. No one's going to say, here comes that nice. We might be ready for these Purple Cats, guys. Get ready for them. It's going to be, guys, it's Kansas State week.
You say
Let's
that.
Go.
And how many people do you think remember because of what happened in the playoff? How many people do you think remember that Kansas State actually won the Big 12?
You're right.
It wasn't TCU. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know that a bunch of people even now would go, oh, yeah, Kansas State's a defending Big 12 champ.
Now, in defense of this list.
No, they're not. They're TCU.
Yeah, in defense of this list, he was 31 last year.
Oh, no, he moved up.
He moved way up, but he could almost be higher.
Gundy's way too low.
I was in that vicinity.
Those next two, Gundy and Mark Stoops, to me, are way too low.
Well, what about Heupel? Think he's right where he needs to be?
Let's see it again.
At 16?
At that school, I need to see it again.
Again, in defense of this list, he was 33 last year.
Yeah, he made a big old move up. In which, listen, if Tennessee is right there competing with Georgia as the SEC East champ and gets into the championship game, he'll be in the top 10 next year. But Heupel's 1 year, while awesome last year at Tennessee, winning a New Year's Six Bowl, the Peach Bowl. Mm-hmm. That's great, but the longevity of what Mark Stoops and Mike Gundy have done at Kentucky and Ohio or at Oklahoma State dwarfs one good season at Tennessee.
Just to do it at Kentucky
or at OSU
or at OSU, yeah. But
I think Gundy gets
OSU seems to care more about their football program than Kentucky.
Yeah,
does.
I agree with that, but they used to not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the turnaround that Gundy has made, he doesn't get as much credit because it's been so long ago. Listen, kids that are graduating high school right now, they have no idea how bad OSU football was.
Yeah.
At one point. They have no clue because all they've known is the T-Boone, Holder, Gundy Cowboys in the new stadium, which isn't so new anymore. But it still feels like it is, you know.
Oh, it's a great stadium.
It's 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But for those two to do what they've done at those schools, and I think Kleiman's that way a little bit, definitely at Kansas State as well. I think those guys are too low. I mean, I like Lane Kiffin. I think he's hilarious. Would I rather have him coaching my team than Mark Stoops or Mike Gundy? Probably not, depending on what it was, where it was. Sonny Dykes for sure. Come on. And then we can start talking with James Franklin. I mean, I think those guys are, those with Kleiman, and we're probably more in tune to it because it's Oklahoma State, it's Kansas State, and then, of course, the Stoops connection with Kentucky. I mean, but for them to go to as many bowls in a row as they have at Kentucky, really? What?
So, when are people going to wake up, big-time schools and go, Mark Stoops has done enough. He needs to lead our program. He is doing what he's doing at Kentucky.
Yeah. We'll see.
But everyone wants to find the next Lincoln Riley, the next young guy that's a genius or whatever.
And who knows? He might have had some chances to leave, but you never really heard his name in the mix at the upper echelon.
Big ones. Yeah, at the big ones.
Here's the problem.
Okay, how about great example for me. Great example. Florida goes and hires who?
Billy Napier.
Is this going to work?
Doesn't look like it.
For me, I'm thinking Florida. Hey, would Stoops go to Kentucky from Kentucky to Florida?
You'd think so.
But I mean, there's a lot more coaching's moving around in the SEC.
That's even interdivision.
Sure. I was going to say it's kind of a rivalry.
Yeah.
But
well, and
I'm just saying the guy deserves a shot at a big school.
But here's the question. And you bring up both schools that we've just brought up. How much was it Mark Stoops just taking advantage at Kentucky that Tennessee and Florida were down?
Down, yeah.
And if those, if he can prove, if he can prove that he can keep Kentucky at the 9-3 level, if Florida and Tennessee are good, then that's a whole different ballgame than what he's done now, just because of those schools haven't been very good.
I really want to dive into Mark Stoops' career at Kentucky. Now, maybe I'm talking myself into this. Is this fool's gold? Who of note has he beaten? What are the big upsets that he's pulled off? I mean, I'm trying.
They beat Florida for the first time in
but like you said,
30 years.
They're kind of
But
they've beaten the teams that because he's gotten them up to a competitive level. That when they go up against, say, obviously the Vanderbilts or even the South Carolinas, or you know what, Kentucky should win this game. They should win that game. But when they go up against a Bama, Georgia, you go, oh, well, let's see if they can pull off the upset. Have they done that yet?
Yeah, here and there. But it's more kind of beating this historic streaks of futility against, say, Tennessee or Florida, as much as anything else. But it is Kentucky football. I mean, that's another thing that we all have to take into consideration. Yeah, he's only going 8-5, 9-4, 10-3. 10-3 at Kentucky. It's like 12-0 somewhere else. You know what I mean? That's the equivalent of Bama, one-loss Bama winning the SEC, if not even better.
They're happy with winning seasons.
Oh, 100%.
And if that's 2 games over 500, they're ecstatic.
But if you're worried about giant upside, as the biggest schools are, has he proven to be able to get to that level? I don't know. Obviously not, because people haven't hired him. But yeah, I would put him up the list.
I'm looking for that win. I'm looking for it. I'm going through. You can continue, but I'm looking for that. I'm going season by season since he's been there. He didn't have a winning season until his 3rd year there.
Yeah, and then I think he had back-to-back 10s, didn't he? If you take the COVID year out,
10-3 and 21.
Okay.
He was 7-6 last year.
What about 19 before the
18? He was 10-3.
Okay, that's 2.
So
okay,
he's
so
had
2
10-win seasons,
which I think they'd only had one ever.
He's 66-59 overall.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's like being a winning coach at Iowa State. And I think the comparison between those two guys, even though Campbell's a little younger, I'm afraid for their sake, did they wait for the right job and end up getting stuck where they're at?
Did you mention Lane Kiffin on this list?
Yeah,
you like him where he's at?
I like Lane Kiffin, and
I do too.
I like him.
I've come around,
I would probably put a couple of the guys that are behind him above him, but could have put a couple of guys that are above him behind him, and so he'd probably end up about right there. Mm-hmm. Like at least so far, would I rather have Lane Kiffin or Josh Heupel? I'd rather have Lane Kiffin. Now that could change after this year, and he got out to the 7-0 start a year ago. Finished 1-5, and so now you're right back to 8-5 at Ole Miss. But they were 7-0 rolling in to what, Baton Rouge? Was that their first loss?
Yeah,
I think it was at LSU, wasn't it? And just got their head knocked off.
Mm-hmm.
But that finish takes a little shine off of that season. But he also had them in the Sugar Bowl the year before against Baylor with Matt Corral. I mean, I wouldn't have been too terribly disappointed to see Lane Kiffin in Norman instead of Brent Venables back then. He was one of those guys where I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind Lane Kiffin. He was never going to get hired at OU just because he's not the right guy, quote unquote, but he's pretty darn good. Who's falling
on this list?
Yeah. And I even went to the next list down from 26 to 59 for this one. I think there's one guy that's clearly falling.
Who's that?
Jimbo Fisher. He's cleared at 20.
Oh, that's a good one.
He's cleared at 20 right now. And does it not just feel like he's a dinosaur? See, this is the beauty to me of Saban.
Man, he was at 5 last year.
This is the beauty of Saban to me. Is coming out of that Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma, and the comments that he would make about the up-tempo offenses and it ruining the game and blah 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 blah. Instead of digging his feet in the dirt and holding that line, he said, "You know what? I better change." And he did, and next thing you know, Bama was back to being Bama. It doesn't feel like Jimbo Fisher has that in him. Now, maybe this hiring of Bobby Petrino does that. Maybe. If he really turns the offense over to him. To, something in the 21st century. But, man, he feels like he's the guy. Yet one more bad season, and the natives are restless. A couple other guys I have that way. Dana Holgorsen at Houston. Gosh, wasn't there a time where it felt like he was the meteoric rise guy? Now it's like, ugh. And then Kirk Ferentz, geez Louise. His offense is in the 1700s. On the other side, rising fast, guys.
I kind of add to the following?
Yeah, go to falling.
According to this, I had to go to that next list. But Matt Campbell,
yeah,
they kind of dropped
it's a huge
him
year
down.
for him.
This is a big year for him, and based on everything he has said, that this is rebuild 2.0. He's telling all his fans and media that we expect not to be good this year. And you mentioned all the close losses that they had.
Mm-hmm.
This is okay. Then, based on that, Matt, based on this year, based on what you just said, this year, it should be better than last year. And if it's not, then that's a lot of heat in his chair.
Well, probably not.
I wouldn't. Maybe
It's
not
Iowa
that.
State.
Not maybe not. But you know what I mean.
Well, you got to. I think probably you didn't realize how much talent they really had on those teams. Once you start looking at the NFL draft and good players in the NFL,
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
man,
yeah.
those guys, even though we're in Iowa State, they were better than we thought. All right, guys that I think can go flying up this board. I think Matt Rule at Nebraska. I think Dan Lanning at Oregon.
Yeah, that was mine.
And I think Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. And, of course, BV is at 52. If Oklahoma has a season that they should against that crappy schedule, he'll go flying up this board as well. So those are kind of the guys that I think have a chance to really rise. And another name that's I just noticed, I don't even know if I knew he was the coach. What if Gus Malzahn has UCF be pretty good? That could be interesting. I don't think I even realized he was the coach at UCF
Yeah, I did.
until just now.
Yeah.
And, of course, my man Hugh Freeze. Watch out. Him and Auburn is a match made in heaven.
Guys that could rise for me, Shane Beamer.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oregon coach Dan Lanning,
Dan
like
Lanning.
you said. And Sarkisian. It's a big year for him, too.
Yeah, it is. They're at 37. Cristobal as well at 39 at Miami. If he can use the NIL like we think it should be used, that could be one that skyrockets as well. Quick leaderboard update at the PGA Championship. Higa is still ahead. He's ahead by 3. 4 under through 7. He just hit it in the rough and just had to lay up. So he's in danger of making his first bogey. But Higa is 4 under. Then you got John Rahm, Justin Thomas, Zach Johnson, all at 1 under par. Early on in the first round of the 105th PGA up at Oak Hill in Rochester, New York. Other golf notes, Jared. Yesterday, the Sooners, Ryan Hibble's Oklahoma Sooners, advanced to their 12th straight national tournament, finishing second in the Norman Regional there at Jimmy Austin behind Alabama by a couple of shots. But OU in the national tournament for the 12th straight year, looking to win the second national title under Ryan Hibble. The last one came back in 2017. They've been right on the doorstep a couple of times since then, just unable to quite get it done. But Sooners back in the national tournament. Oklahoma State's season is over. For just the second time in the last 76 years, Oklahoma State misses out on the men's golf national tournament as they finished 7th in the Las Vegas Regional. So the Pokes not going. They had a streak. Do you realize they had a streak of 65 straight from 1947 to 2011? They made every single national tournament, 65 in a row, and now their second miss in the last 12. Feels like the ship is sinking. The sky is falling. What in the world's happening up there at Stillwater? I think it's interesting, though, because if you look, especially since that 2017 national title, and recently, when I say recently, I mean in the last 2 or 3 years, 4 years-ish, maybe even go a handful. But there have been some really, really, really good players in the state of Oklahoma that a decade, 20 years ago, if those guys would have been in this state heading to play college golf, there would have been 0.0 chance they went anywhere but Stillwater. And Ryan Hibble has been able to get a whole bunch of those guys, including Ryder Cowan this year, which I know came down to Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And he went to Oklahoma. And when you look at their lineups, man, it's very, very interesting because OU's got 5 Texans, 3 Okies, and then a kid from Arizona, a kid from Kentucky, a kid from California, and a kid from Nebraska. Oklahoma State's lineup has 1 Okie, 1 from Colorado, 1 from Illinois, 1 from Nevada, and then 1 from India, 1 from Germany, 1 from Denmark, 1 from China, and 1 from Japan. And I just wonder if, because of the quality of guys that have come through here, Drew Goodman from Oklahoma City just was the runner-up in that regional to the number 1 ranked amateur in the world, Texas Tech's Ludwig Aberg. From right there in Oklahoma City. Ryder, Oklahoma City. Quade Cummins, Weatherford. Brad Dahlke started in Hobart, but he ends up a Metroplex guy. And on. Jackson Dowell's there at OU from, OCS. Has the emergence of OU hurt OSU more than anybody realized?
So you're asking me if the emergence of OU and their recruiting philosophy of finding local kids, the local guys that are good, has.
I mean, those were those kids were guaranteed Cowboys 10 years ago.
Well, I think a lot of the credit goes to Hibble.
Yeah.
With there's a great article I read somewhere. I love giving credit, and I cannot remember where it came from, but I read this article that actually OU's socials put out there about how Castiglione hired Hibble, and it changed. I mean, it was a 180 for the program. They were not good before that, and bringing him in and credit, I think a lot of credit goes to him for finding those guys and staying right here in state for the most part to do it. And it does, and it has a ripple effect. It changes the way in any sport, when a team is good, for instance, OU football. I mean, when they're really, really good, you got everyone else trying to play catch up or do things differently. It has a ripple effect. So that's probably what's happening a little bit over in Stillwater.
And also, there's another thing that's happened in the high school ranks here that
look at OU softball, and everyone's trying to catch up. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the difference is they're able to get anybody and everybody.
Yeah, but
which
it started.
Did Oklahoma State golf.
Yeah.
But nobody is, OSU's trying, but they haven't cleared any hurdles with OU softball the way that the OU golf team has. Quade ended up being a hell of a player at OU. He wasn't that highly recruited because he didn't go out and play in a lot of these. The AJGAs, the real national tournaments, as a high school kid. He was content to, hey, I'm going to OU, and that's great. And Hibble found him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but turning those guys, those local guys like that, into what they became, now all of a sudden when you do see a guy like Ryder, who's playing all over the country, it's more enticing. I mean, what I'm trying to tell you is for the first time ever, Oklahoma's almost on equal footing with Oklahoma State, at least in the eyes of the kids in this state when it comes to golf, which is a mouthful when you consider the tradition of what Oklahoma State is. But they're not getting them. And another thing that's happened, just as far as high school golf in this state, the powerhouse program that Edmond North was for all those years. And when you go back and look, winning 15 or 20 titles in a row, where did those kids go? Almost exclusively to Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. We just saw one. We just saw one this weekend finish second, Austin Eckroat. But as that program has taken a little bit of a step back, that pipeline isn't nearly as full as it once was. So you kind of couple all these things together, and it seems like these kids are actually having a real decision to make. For the first time ever, these Oklahomans that are nationally ranked high school junior golfers, where Oklahoma is just as enticing as Oklahoma State, which is not something that I think anybody, even in your wildest dreams of Joe Castiglione, wouldn't have thought Ryan Hibble could turn Oklahoma into that. But it sure seems like he has. And when you look at the rosters for both sides, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. So it's an amazing accomplishment for Hibble to bring Oklahoma to the level that he has.
And it's another testament of how valuable Joe Castiglione is to the University of Oklahoma. Look at all the hires he has made, and he's hit on more than missed. Starting with Bob Stoops. Did he hire Gasso? I don't know if he did.
Yeah, she was here.
Then obviously Hibble, and there's other numerous hires in there that have had success. I'm interested to see if the wrestling coach hire is going to be a difference maker. Might take some time to find out, but But yeah, I mean the Hibble thing is a thing, and he's got him going. Where is the national tournament?
Scottsdale at Greyhawk. I've kind of put it there the last. It seems
say,
like it's found a home
there for a little bit.
It went around. It was Karsten not that long ago. 2018.
Yeah.
Then it was over in Arkansas. But for the last 3 or 4 years, it's that's where it's been. It almost seems like they've got it planted out there at Greyhawk in Scottsdale. All right, that'll do it.
Okay.
Well, you have a wonderful day tomorrow. Hope it's not raining when you're trying to play golf.
I thought you were going to break some news earlier.
Seismic shift in girls basketball in high school. I can promise you that.
We're waiting for the press release from up north. Usually,
do we really need to?
Usually, we get some stuff up there.
Yeah, we do. I'll check my email. Everybody have a wonderful Thursday.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.
That ball is blistered to right. Way